Hello, Memi Sakashita from Mental Labo. Today, I want to talk about the mechanisms behind binge eating. I run a counseling organization called Mental Lab and conduct research on mental health issues like eating disorders and depression in New York. One of the most common questions I get is about wanting to stop binge eating and why it just doesn't happen. Many people say, I really tried to hold back today, but I ended up binge eating again. These kinds of concerns and struggles just keep coming up. So today, I want to discuss why, even when you think, I'll stop today, binge eating still happens. This is a fundamental topic about binge eating, so I hope you'll listen closely. So, even though you tried to hold back today, you ended up binge eating again. I get a lot of consultations and concerns like that, and they keep coming. So today, I want to talk about why that happens. Even when you think, I'll stop today, why can't you stop binge eating? I'm going to discuss that mechanism. This is a fundamental topic about binge eating, so I hope you'll listen closely. First of all, even when you think, I'll stop today, why can't you stop binge eating? I want to talk about that mechanism. This is the fundamental topic about binge eating, so I really hope you'll listen closely. All right. First of all, I've drawn a diagram here, and this represents a human, kind of like a schematic of all of you. I think many people believe that binge eating is something they consciously think about and do. So when you're trying to hold back on binge eating, you might think, today I won't eat, or I'll really try to stop today. You might think, I want to stop, but isn't it hard to do that? It's still hard to control those actions. But isn't that hard to do? Even if you tell yourself, today is the day I stop, or I won't go to that supermarket today, you might find that you can't even control those actions. Everyone blames themselves thinking, I can't resist the store, or my family told me, but I still buy snacks. Many feel this way. It's not just binge eating, dieting is similar. You plan to skip ramen. This isn't just about binge eating, it's the same with dieting. Binge eating triggers aren't just conscious thoughts. It's from a part of your heart you're not aware of. The mind and heart aren't separate. Scientifically, they're not distinct. When I mention mind and heart, I mean your conscious awareness. What I want to convey is that what triggers your binge eating isn't just the conscious part of your mind, like thinking about what to eat today, or realizing you ate something you shouldn't have. It's actually coming from a part of your heart that you might not be very aware of. Just as a side note, the mind and heart aren't separate entities. Scientifically, they aren't distinct from each other. But today, to make it easier to understand, when I talk about the mind and heart, I'm referring to your conscious awareness. To make it easier to understand, your conscious awareness is the part you're aware of. It's about awareness and action. That's the part you're aware of. For example, when I pick up a pen and say, I'm going to write something, that's conscious awareness. It's about being aware and taking action on your own. We talk about conscious awareness. The unconscious, that's it. So what triggers your binge eating? It's this unconscious part. So what I mean by the unconscious part is, to put it simply, it's mainly emotions. Specifically, it's emotions that trigger binge eating. Emotions, especially negative ones, like feeling lonely, like anxiety, like dissatisfaction, anger. You see, the emotions that have built up inside can explode like this. So when people binge eat, it's often referred to as an impulse, like a binge eating impulse. The true nature of that impulse is the emotions that have become too overwhelming to contain, and they end up exploding. Or rather, they're gradually coming out little by little. Suppressing emotions can cause sudden outbursts, like losing It explodes. When it explodes suddenly, like depression, one day you might find you have no motivation, even though the day before you were fine. You might suddenly not be able to get out of bed, mourning, or office workers might find they can't work, or they might start crying. That's emotions exploding. Eating disorders and binge eating prevent that explosion, like gradually releasing pressure. Binge eating helps you cope with immense stress and emotions built up. It protects you from loneliness, anxiety, frustration, and anger. I'm not saying be grateful for binge eating because it's tough and unpleasant, but binge eating serves a purpose in shielding you from overwhelming emotion. It's like gradually releasing gas little by little in order to ensure that an unnecessary explosion doesn't occur. So actually, overeating puts you under a lot of stress. It's like these built up emotions are actually helping you out. Otherwise, you could really get overwhelmed and, in the worst cases, even consider ending your life. So, I'm not saying you should be grateful for binge eating. I know it's tough and really unpleasant. But actually, binge eating does serve a purpose in protecting you from feelings of loneliness, anxiety, frustration, and anger. It has that role, you know. Alright, so when we talk about the mind, it can feel a bit vague. So let me get a little scientific. When these emotions, or what we generally call stress, build up inside your mind, what happens is it's the sympathetic nervous system. It will give you an advantage. We maintain balance with the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic nervous system is like making you tense. Your heart races, preparing for action. It's like preparing to fight. On the other hand, the parasympathetic nervous system activates before sleep. It calms you, helping you sleep peacefully. So, generally, stress or anxiety makes the sympathetic system active. This causes imbalance. To restore balance, we activate the parasympathetic system. It's like getting your body ready to fight, eat. On the other hand, the parasympathetic nervous system becomes really active before you go to sleep. It helps you gradually calm your mind, relax, and drift off to sleep, making you feel like, today was a good day. So generally, people who experience stress or strong anxiety find that their sympathetic nervous system becomes very active. When that happens, our bodies can lose balance. To regain that balance, we try to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system becomes really active. And when that happens, our bodies lose balance. So, to regain that balance, we try hard to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. So, what's the quickest way to activate the parasympathetic nervous system? It's eating. It's about eating. Right now, sweet and delicious foods are everywhere. Magazines, TV, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. When we eat those things, we temporarily feel this sense of comfort, you know. In that way, we're balancing the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. For those who don't binge eat, that's where it ends. If they can truly feel satisfied after enjoying something delicious, then that's the conclusion for them. But why do some people, especially family members, keep repeating that feeling of, wow, that was so good, over and over? So, for people who don't binge eat, that's where it ends. If they can truly feel satisfied after eating something delicious, then that's the conclusion for them. But why do family members keep repeating that feeling of, wow, that was so good, over and over? It's because there's this strong connection to that feeling of happiness associated with the food. But why do family members keep repeating that feeling of, wow, that was so good, over and over? It's because there's this strong connection to that feeling of happiness associated with the food. Here, there's this overwhelming feeling of happiness in response to that stimulation. Very stimulating. I can't help but want it. Dopamine is linked to drug addiction. To stop binge eating, satisfy the parasympathetic nervous system. If eating leaves you unsatisfied, guilty, or doesn't solve the problem, the cycle continues. I did it, but this dopamine demands more stimulation. Give me more, give me more. So, when trying to let go of binge eating, it would have been better to satisfy the parasympathetic nervous system. If you eat but don't feel satisfied and feel guilty, or if eating doesn't solve the real problem, give me more, it just keeps going. Eating without satisfaction leads to guilt. The hormone demanding more keeps working. In the brain, it's like addiction saying, I want more. Our conscious mind becomes powerless. It's about action drivers. The hormone mimics addiction, overpowering our conscious mind and controlling behavior. So, what's happening in the brain with binging is similar to drug addiction. It keeps saying, I want more, I want more. When that happens, our conscious, which says, today I won't eat, becomes powerless. It's not just about binging, it's about how our actions are driven. It's said that around 95% or up to 99.9% of what drives us is controlled by parts of our mind we're not aware of. This drives our behavior. This conscious part of our mind is about 5%, 4%, or 3%, and some say it's less than 1%. It's weak, so trying to stop binging from this conscious level feels like we're doing something different. So, binging isn't something you should try to suppress or force yourself to stop. This is what determines our actions. This part of the mind is about 5%, 4%, 3%, or even less than 1% according to some people. It's weak. Trying to stop binge eating from this level feels like we're doing something different. Binge eating isn't something you should try to suppress or force yourself to stop. Fixing binge eating is a process that should feel easy for you. The reason is, it's about addressing your feelings of loneliness, dissatisfaction, anxiety, and anger. It's like there's a child inside you. The goal is to understand what the child wants and fulfill those desires. Fixing binge eating is actually a process that should feel really comfortable for you. The reason is that it's about addressing your feelings of loneliness, dissatisfaction, anxiety, and anger. Inside you, there's a childlike part filled with dissatisfaction, anxiety, and fear. The goal is to understand and fulfill that child's desires, crucial for healing binge eating. However, be cautious. That child is very angry because those feelings were ignored for so long. Your true feelings were never acknowledged, so the child is sulking. In the process of healing binge eating, this becomes important. But there's one thing to be careful about. That child inside you is very angry. Even if you try to approach and say, I'll listen to you, that child can still be angry. That's because you've ignored feelings for so long. Your feelings, wanting your mother to pay attention, to love, to understand, you were never acknowledged. So, that child is sulking. You might have wanted your mother to say, look at me, care for me, understand me. But since feelings were never recognized, that child is upset. Even if you want to look at that child within you, it can be difficult. I wanted you to see me more, to care for me more, to understand me, and to acknowledge me, but I wasn't understood, so that child inside me is sulking. So even if you try to look at the child yourself, it's difficult. In my mental work, I focus on listening to the child's perspective. While therapies like hypnosis exist, I don't use them online as not everyone is open to it. Instead, I concentrate on understanding the child's thoughts. At the mental lab, we often see a reduction in binge eating within the first month. However, this doesn't mean emotional issues are resolved, so I follow up for 2 months to address them. Suppressing binge eating with just your mind is ineffective. Well, it's really about listening to what that child inside you is thinking. So, for the people I support at the mental lab, within the first month, we usually see a significant reduction in binge eating. However, just because binge eating decreases on the surface doesn't mean the emotional issues are resolved. That's why I follow up for about 2 months to properly address those emotional aspects. To overcome binge eating, suppressing it mentally is pointless. Don't blame yourself for not stopping or thinking, I can never get better. Holding back mentally activates the sympathetic nervous system. It's better to stop that, and don't blame yourself for not overcoming it with your mind. Trying to hold back activates the sympathetic nervous system. Thinking, I have to hold back, worsens it. Pushing the parasympathetic system leads to, I need to eat to feel safe. It's a negative cycle. I hope you stop forcing yourself to hold back from binge eating. Many wonder, what should I do? I'll stop here, but first steps are in free consultations. If interested, have a free consultation. I plan to share more, so please subscribe. I want to do live sessions, so please subscribe. That negative cycle just keeps going around and around, so I really hope you stop trying to force yourself to hold back from binge eating starting today after watching this video. But then, many people might wonder, so what should I do instead? I think a lot of people might not know what to do. Well, today got a bit long, so I'll wrap it up. First off, if you're wondering what to do, we talk about that in the free consultations. If you're interested, I really encourage you to have a free consultation where we can discuss what steps you can take. I think I can share some ideas on how to move forward. I'll also be putting out more videos on this, so please subscribe to the channel. I plan to do some live sessions and answer your questions, so I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thank you. So if you found today's video helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up. It really encourages me. Thank you for watching until the end today. Also, if you register for the line in the description, you can ask questions through there, so please consider signing up for line as well. Alright, that's it for today. I'll see you in the next video.